All right, the Recon friends, welcome back to our next video. So in our last video, we opened up with the characteristics, the assumptions, the definitions, the traits of monopolistic competition. In this video, we're going to move in, as we always do, to those decisions around profit maximization. All right, so let's jump in. And the big thing to bear in mind here is, while the outcomes may be different, the steps are going to be the same as before. Because as with other firms and other structures, all the firms in monopolistic competition, they simply use marginal analysis. As always, marginal analysis to maximize profits. Specifically, the firms in this industry, like other firms, they will continue to lower their prices and raise their output until marginal revenue exceeds marginal cost. Okay, so these firms are going to use marginal analysis. Specifically, they're going to lower their prices and raise their output, right? Increase their amount of stuff they're selling. And they're going to do that until they reach that magic point where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. In other words, my friends, just like PC, just like Monopoly, MC firms are going to follow the tried and true MR equals MC rule. Okay, let's now jump into the specifics. Now, before we do that, you have to remember that because of product differentiation, as we talked about in the last video, the firms in monopolistic competition, they have a downward sloping demand curve. Okay, MC firms, they have a demand curve that is downward sloping and is flatter, in other words, more elastic than the market demand curve. What does this mean? Well, this means that the marginal revenue curve, which is an important curve, as you know, because we have to do MR equals MC. So because the demand curve is downward sloping, the marginal revenue curve will also be downward sloping. And as you know, the marginal revenue curve will always lie below the demand curve. Okay, let's expand this a little bit and you can see. Recall that under perfect competition in panel B, we'll start with that one. That was our first structure. We learned that the individual firm is the price taker. So they're going to have this perfectly elastic, perfectly horizontal demand curve. We then learned in Monopoly that because of market power, the monopoly firm's demand curve is the market demand curve. Going to be downward sloping with MR under it. But critically, because the monopoly was the whole industry, the one firm was the market, the elasticity was a little bit different. And it had a much steeper demand curve. Okay, if we compare those two to monopolistic competition, we see again a downward sloping demand curve because of the market power, because of the product differentiation. And we also see the MR curve underneath it. But critically, again, monopolistic competition, the demand curve is downward sloping, but it's highly price elastic because there's many rivals. And contestable markets implies there's not just actual rivals, but potential rivals. So if you notice, comparing, let's go back to pen here, comparing panel A, monopolistic competition, make that better, there you go, to panel C, Monopoly, you'll see that they both have a downward sloping demand curve, but the Monopoly curve is much steeper, the MC curve much flatter. This reflects the relative elasticities, okay? So what steps will we take? Well, we have our 3-4-step process that we've done before. As in PC and Monopoly, step 1, the monopolistic competition firm will first determine its output level. Okay, in our step-by-step process, we had our layout, we had our curves. Step 1, we follow MR equals MC to determine the output. Then once you have output, after following the MR equals MC rule, step number 2, you're going to find price. Remember that price is derived from the demand curve. So step one was MR equals MC, and we drop that dotted Q line down. That's the output. Step two, we take that Q line up to the demand curve and we go left to find our price. And then now, once you have output and once you have price, last step, step three, you determine profit or loss by calculating where the average total cost curve lies. Technically, where the average total cost curve, where the ATC curve lies in relation to price. Okay, remember, we learned a while back that profit was TR minus TC. So profit was also equal to Q times P minus ATC. So our big three variables to solve for: Q, how much to make; P, what price to charge; and where's ATC. This three-step process here: step one, find your output, MR equals MC. Step two, take that Q line up to demand and go to the left for price. And step three, compare your ATC curve at the Q line to your price. That's all you have to do, okay? We know there's really two conditions that can emerge. If, in case one, price exceeds ATC at the profit maximizing output level, the firm earns profits. If price is greater than ATC, the firm will make profits. Okay, we can see that here. Let's take a look at this panel right here. This is monopolistic competition. You'll notice that you already know how to do this because this layout is mechanically the same as Monopoly. The slopes are different on the demand curves, but because of market power, we have the downward sloping D and the MR under it. So if you know how to do the Monopoly analysis, you can do this one. Let's do it real quick. We have our layout. Step one, we found MR equal to MC. MR, MC, there it is. Drop a line down, and that's our output level, our quantity. Step two, take that Q line up, up, up to the demand curve. Go to the left. That's price. Step three, find where the Q line hits the ATC curve. ATC curve is here, hits the Q line right there. Go to the left, and there you go. And you know the rest now. We have boxes. The first big box right here, P times Q, total revenue. The box right here, ATC times Q, total cost. And therefore, as you know, the leftover box, which would be right here, would be total revenue minus total cost would be profit, which we also know as this distance here, which is P minus ATC multiplied by this distance here, which is Q, and that's our profit formula, okay? So 3 steps, and we have our first case right here, profit. Profit in the short run, but profit because P is greater than ATC. We can have the opposite case, as you know. If for some reason P falls below ATC at the profit maximizing output level, this firm will be facing losses. In other words, if P is below ATC, we're going to have losses. Let's map this one out. Same analysis, just a little bit different, okay? First things first, same setup. Downward sloping D, MR under it, MC curve, ATC curve. Step one, MR equals MC. MC, MR, they equal right there. Drop your line down. There's your output. 1 down, 2 to go. Step two, take that Q line up to the demand curve, which is right here, because here's the demand curve, and go to the left. There's P. Step one, Q, got it. Step 2, P. Got it. Step 3, where's our ATC curve? We take our Q line, our quantity line, up to ATC, because again, ATC is here. We go to the left, and there you go. Once again, we have our boxes. In this case, our total revenue, P times Q, is here. Our total cost, ATC times Q, is here. And our leftover box would be, in this case, right here. But we know that this box would be a loss box because the total costs are greater than total revenue. Or, seen a little bit differently, if you look here, your P minus ATC value is going to be negative. And therefore, a negative profit is a loss. Here is our loss box, okay? So we have this idea, our steps. We followed the steps. We learn how to maximize profit. Notice that the profit and loss are short-term, short-run phenomena. But we know that because of low barriers to entry, right? Because of contestable markets, this is not going to last. Let's see how we move from the short run to the long run. And you recall that in monopolistic competition, like in PC, the presence of profits or losses is going to incentivize entry or exit into or out of the industry. Again, this is critically tied to our assumption of low barriers to entry. How's it going to play out? Well, here's the mechanics of it. When profits exist, okay, so case one, when we have profits, which you recall implies that P is greater than ATC. In the case of profits, the entry of new firms, okay, so profits will lead to entry. This entry of new firms will reduce the market share of existing firms. In other words, new firms come in, they're going to get some of my customers. So the market share of an existing firm will fall. And this is going to shift their demand curve to the left, while at the same time, their cost curves stay constant. Because of this movement, as a result, the profits for existing firms decline. We can see it right here. Over here, we have the profits. We saw this a minute ago in the profit box. But this profit is going to lead to the entry of new firms. And for this existing firm, what's going to happen, let's look over here at this panel on this side. What's going to happen is rivals will enter, and that will eat into the market share of existing firms. And that market share is going to fall, demand will fall, the demand curve will shift left, and you can see the corresponding impact. The prices that the firm can charge will fall, and eventually that P minus ATC gap will disappear, okay? Profits will go away. Or how about this? The existence of profits will lead to a series of events that will get rid of those profits. The opposite will occur when there's losses. So the second case would be when there's losses, when price is less than ATC. The opposite will occur when there are losses. What are the mechanics? Well, if there are losses in the industry, you're going to see the exit of some firms. So some existing firms that are losing money, they're going to leave, they're going to exit, they're going to get out of the industry. As they exit, this will lead to an increase in the market share of the firms that remain. So you have some firms that are losing, they get out of the industry. Well, as they leave the industry, the market share, the number of sales for the firms that remain is going to go up. And this is going to shift their demand curve to the right. It's going to allow them to charge some higher prices, and it's going to increase their profits. It's the same process as before, just the opposite way. Again, here in this panel, we see a monopolistically competitive firm making a loss. You see the loss box right here that we've talked about. Well, what's going to happen? Well, as some of the firms exit, for the remaining firms, this is the critical thing. You have to remember, these are the firms that remain. For the remaining firms, the exit of rivals will increase market share for the remaining firms. This will move their demand curves to the right, correspondingly shifting the MR curves, and this will allow firms to charge higher prices, eventually getting rid of their losses. This adjustment process, my friends, is going to go on until we reach the point where P equals ATC. At this point, as you know, profits equal 0. And because with 0 profits, there's no more incentive for entry and no more incentive for exit, the market, the industry will stabilize into a long-run equilibrium. And what that equilibrium is going to look like is actually right here. Let's erase this because you know the analysis, and let's assume that this graph right here represents the monopolistically competitive industry at long-run equilibrium. Notice if we did our 3-step process, we would see step 1, MR equals MC right here. Drop that down and we get Q. Step 2, take the Q up to the demand curve and go left for price, up, up, up to the new demand curve. Go left and there's price. Step 3, find where the Q line hits the ATC curve. Here's ATC and the Q line hits it right there. And that's the critical thing. At this point right here, at the Q line, price equals ATC. You see, if you want to use the mathematical term, the ATC curve and the demand curve are tangent at that line. They just touch each other at the Q line, which implies that at the output level, P equals ATC, profits are 0, no entry incentive, no exit incentive, long-run equilibrium. That, my friends, is how firms in this industry determine profit maximization and how the industry evolves and moves from the short run to the long run. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.